Hi, we start a Python tutorial. First, we should know these definitions. What is workflow? Prototyping, production ready, procedural way, object oriented and functional way. We should first know what is the definitions. Okay, what is workflow? Workflow is a picture. Well, we show a picture to you. A procedural way. For example, this is a workflow. Writer gathers information. Writer composes first draft. After that, the writer submits draft for review. And 3 teams. Review it, engineering team lead review, editor and project manager review. After review of this, writer incorporates SME feedback. After that, the writer submits final draft, and in this phase, after this phase, content approved or rejected. If content approved, writer publishes content. If rejected, writer review final draft and edit it. Then it falls into a life cycle. If rejected, then again he or she edits. If approved, writer publishes. It is like our flowchart. We see another example of what is workflow. Workflow is a group of independent processes and tasks that achieve a specific business outcome. For example, this is a workflow: process 1, process 2, process 3, process 4. Each of which process are task 1, task 2, task 3, task 4. Means that it has own workflow. That is, a group of individual tasks make up a process. Processes and tasks can perform both by people and machines. Yeah. And other definition of workflow. What is workflow? Workflow is a structured way of defining and automating structures and procedures within an organization. And what is workflow? Management system. A system that completely defines, manages, and executes workflows through the execution of software driven by workflow logic. Yeah. And it is in programming phase flowcharts. We have in flowcharts for example, start step and print integer number. It prints a number in a screen, and this condition if number greater than 0, then print greater than 0. If number is not greater than 0, it ends. If it represents positive numbers, and this is other workflow. First step is starting and get input from external devices, mouse and keyboard or a scanner. Then it imports in a conditional way. If yes, do this process. If no, do this process. And then steps is ended by this. Another flowchart, for example, for loop and while loop. It starts. This is contain last item. Is that the last item? No. Yes. If it is no statement and it is it made a loop here. If yes, it ends. It is a life cycle. Yes, this life cycle is continuous until the condition is got a yes to end, and this is while loop. If start condition, if true, it do statements, and then condition is checked, then true again, do statements, and this is a life cycle until it hit false condition. If condition is false, then this cycle end. It may be infinite life cycle with while loop. This is our workflow and flowchart. Okay. Next concept is prototyping. What is prototyping? For example, if we wanna do prototyping, in architecture, we wanna see a prototyping. Look, I wanna find a good example of prototyping. This is a prototyping in architecture, and another prototyping. This is a small form factor, and this because prototyping. Look, it is beautiful. How nice it is. It is prototyping in architecture. We have prototyping in programming too. And prototyping in programming is in software designing phase. Software modeling and what we do in, for example, rational rows. Yeah, prototype. Look at this. For example, client do operation and interface do clone. Concrete prototype 1. These are generalization and that are two childs. Concrete prototype 1 and concrete prototype 2. They does clone. If you want to see another example, let's look at these. This is another prototyping. It is a small and overview. Embedding and delegation. For example, parent here have data parameters and methods of functions, each of which have its own parameters and methods. For example, me, I have color scheme, for example. It is my variable, and I do something. It is my method, each of which is an object that discussed in object-oriented. Okay, another example prototype. This simple picture of our life routines. Yeah. Next concept is production ready. What is production ready? Production ready is a piece of software is considered production ready if it is capable of meeting and demands of its users. This includes ease of usability, reliability, and availability. Various software teams assess the criteria in different way, but agile teams lean on acceptance of user stories in order to validate usability and automated testing to validate readability. The last piece, availability, means that the software must be available to use. Example, it must be in production. Agile teams maximize availability by leveraging automated deployment and practicing continuous delivery. Feature complete. And you can pause this video and read this. Okay, next term is procedural way, object oriented and functional way. What is object oriented? Okay, first of which, what is procedural way in programming? Okay. Oh, I see. Good example. Main program used functions, function 1 and function 2. Function 1 uses function 5. Function 3 and function 4. It divides to function 3 and function 4 and uses function 5. Function 4 uses function 2. This is a procedural. Functional. Or another example is this main program or main body. It consists of procedure A, procedure B and procedure X. Procedure B consists of procedure Y and procedure Z. Nice and clear. For global data, these function 1, function 2, function 3. Function 1 local data, function 2 local data, function 3 local data. I want to use simple examples. Okay, this main program has global data, 3 global datas. Function 1 uses 2 of them. Function 2 uses, as you see, global data 1 and 2. Function 3 uses these 2 and function 4 uses these 2. It's functional. Okay, what is object oriented? If you want to see definition of this, procedural programming is a programming paradigm derived from imperative programming based on the concept of procedural call. Procedures, a type of routine or subroutine, simply contain a series of computational steps to be carried out. Excuse me. and after that we should know object-oriented programming is for example, look at this picture. A class, meaning of class, you will know meaning of class later in details, but know that a class is in object-oriented programming, for example, divided for 3 objects. Object 1, his name is object 1, size 2. Name object 2, size 3. Object 3, size 1, for example. Each object has its value and can call the methods found in classes. Is considered as an object. That's an important concept in programming nowadays. Field's name is string, size is integer. Methods are what they can do: rotate and move. If we search another good example, yeah, this object-oriented programming concepts consists of object, class, polymorphism, encapsulation, inheritance, and abstraction. We use all of them in a object-oriented programming language like C or Python. Python can implement this. If we're looking for another okay, I think this is enough for object-oriented. Then we search about functional programming. I'm looking for a good picture. Yes. Object-oriented programming uses classes. Inside of class, it has main body, consists of variables, functions, other stuffs, and functional programming is used. For example, function 1 uses function 2, uses function 3, function 3 uses function 4, function x, for example, uses function this function. This picture is a good example of this. You shouldn't need to know all of this now. You should learn it after we learn programming. Mhm. Object functional programming is a programming approach emphasizing the transformation of objects and using object-oriented as well as functional means and principle to this end. It defines object and functional programming. It uses two features: object-oriented feature and functional feature. Python do that, and it is a good and shows its power of the Python. Yeah. Okay, we learn our primary needs, and we should ready to start learning